Hey team, it's Marcos Rivera, and today I want to talk about a framework on how to frame your value. It's a framework called R.E.A.L, R-E-A-L. And R.E.A.L stands for relativity, economic, anchor, and likelihood. And this is going to be especially important for those earlier stage companies or companies that are launching new products out into the marketplace to understand these four elements of value framing, so that way you can land on the right price points when you start doing your data research, et cetera. Let's break this down one by one. R, relativity. And what does that mean? That means that when people buy software technology, they're comparing it to other spends within their stack. So what I mean by that is if you're selling, some type of data tool that sits on top of a CRM, they're going to compare that cost to how much they pay for the CRM. So if they're paying $25 a user for a CRM, it's going to be really hard for them to justify or understand a $50 per user cost on something that sits on top. So they're always trying to sort out the pecking order or hierarchy in their mind of the most critical software, how much they pay for that. It's not very rational to a degree. I understand what folks are trying to do, but you got to understand that's how people think. Is they're always looking at, okay, what's the most important thing for me? I got to spend money on that. Other things that aren't that important oftentimes would or in their minds allocate a lower spend. Make sure you understand, relative speaking, how your product fits in their tech stack and what they're spending on those other products. So that way you could figure out what your ratio is. Are you 2% of IT spend? Are you half the spend of what they're using, they're spending on their CRM, et cetera? And just be mindful of how you're playing in that stack. The second thing is economic. Now, the economic is where most folks go first, the ROI. What's the economic benefit of using this thing? And that's really critically important as well. So if you're thinking of, how do I express this? I prefer to express ROI as a payback because people kind of can wrap their heads around that a little bit more. So if I were to tell you you're getting 147% ROI on this product, that's great. Usually a little bit more skepticism around that. This product pays for itself in 2 months, or this product pays for itself after 4 projects, right? Things like that are a little bit more tangible for them to think about, sink their teeth into, imagine in their minds. And that's usually a better way to frame the ROI. The third one in the framework is anchor. And anchor is naturally humans, very similar to the relative. We're also thinking of substitutes and what we would pay. And so if you have a competitor out there that is charging a really low price, or maybe even giving away something for free that is similar to your product, now may not be apples to apples, but they don't know that yet. And so they're going to immediately say, okay, well, if this thing does 80% of what you do and it's free, then why should I pay for your product? And this is where differentiation really comes up in the most, is you have to be able to say and explain in a very clear way why they would pay for your product if there's any difference between what you do and what the others are doing. This is the crux of being able to capture that premium. So know what those anchors are and get ready to unpack sort of why your price point is different than that anchor, so that way you can get them off of it and recalibrate them. The last one is likelihood. Likelihood is something that not a lot of folks think about, which is how long does it take to get to the value? And in many cases, software has a lot of configuration, training, ramp up, data migrations, all those things to really get to that promise of value in the software, that steady state. But the longer that takes, the less value you can capture from that. And if you take a really long time to get to value, oftentimes you have to give a higher ROI to that client. But if you can give value immediately, you can capture a lot more of it, and therefore maybe offer a lower ROI and capture that up front. So R.E.A.L, relativity, economic, anchor, likelihood. These are 4 quick ways to frame your value, especially if you're newer and you're trying to understand where you fit. If you follow these 4 framing techniques and really use all 4 to hone in on what price levels you want to go after, you'll be in a much better and defendable position. And you can start to evolve from there as maybe your time to value begins to come down and you speed that up, or you're able to create more differentiation from the anchors or higher ROI on the economic side, or justify that spend relative to the other tech stack. So take this away, and hopefully this moves you another degree away from that guesswork. Thanks for listening. I hope this was helpful. See you next time.